Hey guys, Kevin Downey here from Kevin M. Downey and Strategic Advisor at Aptive Index. Thanks so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. In this video, I actually want to spend time digging into Aptive Index's AI called Aria. It has a name. And what it can do, what it does. I cover Aptive Index in detail in all about it in other videos. Obviously, you can look at their website. I'm gonna jump over. This is their science page and all the science data behind it, and they've got validation studies and all this stuff, right? But if you're not familiar with drive-based hiring, cognitive psychology attributes, and using that to hire, the short version is we've been dealing with turnover in the United States at 42 to 47% forever. It's getting worse. We keep hiring on skills and experience and resume, and it keeps failing us. It keeps failing over and over again, and we're not changing. All too often in companies, we're not changing. And that is what Aptive Index solves. It solves the ability to identify people, match people to positions, right? It's the ability to measure, again, it's measuring our cognitive psychology attributes. And ultimately, these are more than just behaviors or tendencies. They're fundamental needs and motivations that drive our decisions and actions. They're established when we're young, and they don't change. They're very stable. All right. And I know that for a fact because I've actually taken their competitors' products, and I know in one case I took one that didn't change, and I took it 6 years ago and then a year ago, and profile was exactly the same. Right. So I know the science works. I know that it's all there, not just from the data, but my own experience. Right. Aptive Index takes this science to an entirely different level, and their AI product is just leaps and bounds ahead of everyone, and its use case in companies is just absolutely amazing. Okay. So what we want to look at, if you're not familiar, you can check out all kinds of stuff online. We've got videos. You can go to their website. If you haven't taken it, you got to try it. Visit our website, kevinmdowney.com. There's a link to take it. Up in the corner, you'll get a PDF after you take it. It takes 8 to 10 minutes to get that PDF. You're going to be blown away by the accuracy of it. But also there's a link in the description here in the video, okay, here on YouTube. Anyway, so if we look at, again, we're trying to hire based upon what we call our attributes, right? We call them drives, attributes, right? There's 4 primary that form our main profile, and then 4 secondary. And we use these secondary ones, or standalone attributes, for specific use cases in certain kinds of jobs. And I can show you what that looks like here in a minute. But what we want to do is we want to match people to jobs, right? That's why we continually have the turnover problem in the United States. We're hiring the wrong way. We're hiring based on skills and experience and resume. And those are 2 of the worst ways to hire people. We know it's statistically, we know for a fact it's failing. Like, it fails. It doesn't bear itself out, right? And I talk about that as a sales example. I talk about hiring sales reps all the time off of resume, skills, and experience. And you hire them, you pay them all this money, and the needle never moves, right? Why? Because they're not built to do cold outreach. You're hiring them to sell, not to do, and that's what they want to do, but they don't want to dial the phone. They don't want to go out and prospect, right? And those are 2 different wiring patterns. They're just two different types of people, okay? So the challenge with the products in this space historically, again, the science has been around for over 100 years. In use in business has been decades now. And those who have done it and gone through training, which some of the products historically require a lot of training, workshops, multi-day workshops sometimes, to actually learn how to read the dots, as it were, and understand how to read them and implement them in a company. So the problem that we've always had before Aptive Index is that within companies, you're only going to send so many people to train on this stuff, right? I mean, you're going to send maybe an owner, a handful of executives, or an executive or 2, and maybe a director of HR at best, right? That's the most, and in most cases. And so you don't implement it throughout the entire company because there's only a handful of people trained on it. Right? Aptive Index changes that entirely. It turns it on its head. It's a full 180 because you don't need to be trained on the science. Yes, once you get into using the platform, you're going to get used to reading the dots and seeing some patterns and stuff like that and begin to understand it. You'll also then use the AI. Every person will, and use the AI, and they'll become more and more educated on it. But that's the beauty, is it's AI Aria changes the game because you no longer have to know the science to actually get any. So everybody in your company that has direct reports and is an HR and internal recruiter can use this, right? It's useful to everyone. So when we go into a company with Aptive Index, everybody in the company takes it, right? Once they sign on. And so you have everybody in the company that's an employee, and then ultimately you want to start using it. Companies initially sometimes will only give it to finalists for positions, or maybe to do it to people they're going to, hiring managers going to interview, but ultimately it's actually your primary screening tool. So instead of looking at resume, skills, and experience first, which we know doesn't work, but that's still how companies are built to hire, and HR is trained that way, right? And internal recruiters, so they look at resume, they want to check boxes, they want objective hiring, right? But they want to do it off a resume because that's what they know. So they go off of resume, skills, and experience. They do their little screening interview, and then they hand them to manager, and they say, hey, this person checks these boxes. This person checks the boxes, yada, yada. And that's how they hire. Yet it keeps failing, right? Well, now in companies with Aptive Index, what we see from the clients that are on the platform and using it is, at first, they will give Aptive Index to all their employees and then to finalists or people that are going to interview with a hiring manager as part of scheduling that interview. But once they really begin to understand how it works and really start to use the AI in the back end, now HR does a full 180 and comes in and says, nope, we're not looking at resume or at all anymore. First, we're having them take Aptive Index first. It is the screening tool to see if the person's wired for the position. Then we're going to look at skills and experience and resume and all that stuff and do a pre-screen interview. Okay. And that is how you've got to think about this. So I've taken so long explaining it. All right, let's look at the AI. What kinds of things can we ask it? You can ask it anything. So I'm going to give you an example. You can ask, and again, I'm just giving you a few examples here. You can get a short introduction on a person. So the way companies use this is, other than just hiring, they're literally using it for, main things would be leadership development, team dynamics, and conflict resolution. Those are the three main things other than hiring, right? So when we look at the AI, what can we use it for? What can we ask it? Well, we can ask it to give me a short introduction to a person. It's at the person's name, right, that's taking it. You can do introduction to, tips for first meeting with, recommended jobs roles. Is this person fit for this type of position or this exact position that we built in Aptive Index? How to give critical feedback to a person, conflict resolution between two people, and I'm going to show you that in a second. Team optimization, you can roast people, have fun with it, right? You can ask, what position would this person be good at in a certain sport? It actually tells me I should be a defensive coordinator. Makes sense, right? So when we look at my profile, it totally makes sense that that's the case, okay? So now, again, the key to this AI is we're not looking at just a select number of people in a company utilizing the platform. We're looking at everybody who has direct reports utilizing this platform, right? Because if everybody in the company takes it and everyone with direct reports and HR uses it, they can find out information or ask about people in the company that they're going to have a meeting with that maybe they don't know or don't know very well. Right? They can get some insight into their drives. How are they built? How are they wired, as we call it, right? Again, AI, look at the detail in this. We're just taking this is just all off of them each taking an 8 to 10 minute assessment. So let's say we're looking at conflict resolution. So Aria can tell us, understanding the core tension, the flashpoint, resolution strategy, communication, all of this stuff. Look at the level of detail in this and why, right? And then it references me because it's my account, right? Practical conflict de-escalation scripting, long-term success indicators, bottom line. You can get as detailed and as deep as you want. You can get it really short. You can get, just little bits of insight into people. Like one of the things we know you can ask it is, you can do 2 to 3 first meeting tips with Kevin Downey, for example, right? And it'll give you very, very short information, right? And a brief overview of me, for example. But that is the level of detail, and why this becomes so important. And what you have to understand is that, again, it's not just for a handful of people that go through a workshop to use it. Now it's everybody in the company. And what we find out from clients is, and there's a quote, this is coming from somebody else's client, not one of my clients, but somebody else's client who is a head of sales, who was a Division I or II baseball player. And after a few months on Aptive Index, he was his quote was, "It would be like playing baseball without a glove." That now that he has it, if he took it away, he'd be like, "It's like playing baseball without a glove. I could barely manage." And you look at it and you say, once people dig in and they use it, it's amazing just the level of use. And we know this from our CEO having the data on the back end, how much use Aria gets within companies. Everyone is using it. They're asking questions. They're trying to find out, how do I deal with this conflict? What's the best way to build a team? And again, I'll finish up with this. Like, you can look at a person and you can build teams with this thing. It's absolutely amazing. So you go beyond profile. You can do team print, and you can team print an entire team or an entire company on this map. And it shows you how you are covering all these 6 parts of a company or a business. It's absolutely amazing, right? And then it can compare to different jobs. It's just, again, you build a job, then you run everybody that you're going to hire through it, and they take the assessment, and then you get a match percentage. You can ask Aria why they would be good or why they wouldn't be good, so on and so forth. It's just, again, it's going through the entire company, and its use is just universal in an organization, and that's what's so amazing about it. Anyway, I've taken too long. Thanks so much for being here. If you want to try out Aptive Index, visit our website, kevinmdowney.com. Got a link to try it out. It takes 8 to 10 minutes. It'll kick you a PDF. You'll be blown away. And then if you want to get a look at the platform, schedule a call with me, and we'll take a look at it, show you how it can help your business. Thanks so much for being here. Best of luck in business, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.